Just a real quick video. First one of the year. Shoot us on my phone, so if it's kind of crappy, sorry. But got this Optiplex 740 in. Don't see these very often. These were the budget Dells. Got the AMD Athlon 64X2. I think it's got like a 5,000 plus in or something like that. Little wimpy 240 watt power supply. Nothing special. It's like the graphics card's been upgraded. Some sort of old 9000 series NVIDIA card. Better than the onboard, because I know the onboard's like no longer supported. So this machine has Windows 10 on it, and it ran Windows Update, like the good child it's supposed to be. Updates, updates, updates. Unfortunately, with the new bugs that they have found in the CPUs, with specifically Spectre, I think that's how you pronounce it for the AMD machines. AMD, I guess, provided Microsoft with the wrong information about how to deal with it. And so the patches that were released, while they work fine for most of the Intel machines, they do not work on the AMD machines. As you can see, this is the way this machine was sent in. And that's all you get. You get it right here, and you go no further. Now, it's an old machine. It's got a decades old CPU in it. But it's still plenty usable for surfing the internet, especially when you got the extra graphics card in there to help decode like video and stuff. Word processing, any daily task this machine is still capable of doing, except for like power gaming and stuff like that. Heck, you could even still render video on it. It might take you a whole lot longer, but it could be done. So there will never be a BIOS update for these machines. Matter of fact, none of these Optiplex. Matter of fact, any machine right now that's not maybe within the 3 years old or still within the margins of like warranties and within the pipeline of the companies that are making these things will ever get firmware patches for the BIOS to do the microcode updates to patch around all this crap. It's sad. All these machines like this will never ever get updates. Now, a lot of this stuff here is just now being decommissioned out of within the last year or so. This stuff is being decommissioned out of corporations and colleges and stuff. I think this one came out of our local college, and they end up in like the Goodwills and places like that for cheap, and people buy them and use them. Still perfectly good machines, but they're no longer supported anymore. I mean, even like I think it's the Optiplex 780. The last, I think, BIOS update it had was 2013, maybe, something like that. So, anyway, we've rambled off there. The problem is the patch is broken. Now, Microsoft released a new patch to deal with this. However, we have to get it to roll back. Now, I believe we can turn it on and off enough times it'll roll back. And then we have to go and manually download, I believe it's 16299.194, I believe, is the patch to fix the AMD crap. Why it didn't just grab that patch to begin with, instead of grabbing the wrong patch, is beyond me. So we'll have to see if I can get it to roll back and do its thing. But now, because of this whole CPU bug issue, we now have patches for the 64-bit CPUs. We now have to have a separate set of patches made for the AMD CPUs. And now I'm looking here on another monitor over here on my right. We now have to have patches for the 32-bit CPUs, for those that are still out there running around. I mean, it's just nuts. Now, this is where Linux comes in. And I know a lot of people hate Linux or whatever, but I use it on a few machines. With Linux, you can get around the whole BIOS microcode by, and most distros now, you can actually use the device driver manager thing that's built into them, and it will get and install upon boot the current microcode for the CPU. Because you can't, once the CPU is done, it's done. There is no changing it. So what they do is load the microcode and it gets stored into the CPU to fix the bugs. You're not actually patching a CPU permanently or whatever. It has to be done every boot. Windows can do this, and Microsoft should get off their ass and make that happen. So that instead of having to rely on BIOS updates that will never, ever, ever come for these old machines, that Intel could provide the microcode updates to Microsoft, and they could just patch it in, and then when at system boot, right before the OS really gets going, at some sort of low level, have it patch the microcode and then boot the OS. Linux can do it. Microsoft should be able to do it. Alright, so I'm going to mess around with this for a little while and see if I can get it to roll back. If I get it to roll back, then I'll manually go into the Microsoft Update website and grab that patch and see if we can get this machine to to come back to life and run. Alright, power it off and on 3 times, and that'll get it to do a rollback. I also recommend you disconnect your Ethernet so that it can't get back on Windows Update and try and grab the patch. Because then you just get in a loop. It'll grab that wrong patch, install it, you get the freeze, over and over and over and over and over like Groundhog Day. So we'll see if it'll roll it back. I'm not going to bore you guys with this. It might take forever. Still attempting repairs. So I've got the 16299. I think it's like 194. I've got that patch downloading at 600 megs because they're all cumulative. So every patch has the previous patch's information in it. So you can get that through the Microsoft Update catalog. That's pretty much the only way to get it. It's not being delivered via Windows Updates, best I can tell. Alright, we're now undoing the changes. Like I say, keep your Ethernet disconnected so it won't get back online. Let's see how long this takes. Gotta remember, this is a 10-year-old CPU, so it might take a little bit. Alright, so we finally got back into Windows with all of its crap installed. See what version it rolled us back to. Rolled us back to 299.125. And as you can tell, this is a 64x2 5000 plus 2.6 gigahertz. Alright, so what it is, I went on another machine and I grabbed the patch. It should be this one. It's knowledge base. Should be the knowledge base article 4073290 for x64. I don't think they made a 32-bit version for AMD. They might have, but I doubt it. I don't think the older, well, you can't even run it on anything other than an Athlon 64 because there's no SSE. I think it's 2 support. So we'll let this patch do its thing and see if that fixes it. Alright, so after messing with this thing for about, well, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes, the update to fix the problem doesn't work. You can install it multiple times and it will just fail. I tried booting into safe mode and renaming the software distribution folder so that it would create a new one. Rebooted back into regular mode, ran the update, and it blue screened with a kernel security failure. Rebooted, ran it again, and acted like it was going to get there. Got all the way out to just about the end of the progress bar, and then it failed again. So I went and looked, and of course the Book of Knowledge says that there are no known issues with the patch according to Microsoft, but then there are people who report that the patch won't install. So this is just a big ass cluster. I mean, that's just all there is to it. My recommendation to this customer is going to be, such as this is a clean load of Windows anyway, that they were trying to upgrade. I'm going to recommend to this customer that they go back to Windows 7 and stay there until they get a new machine. Um, Intel can't seem to get their crap together. Microsoft can't get their crap together. AMD feeds Microsoft bad information. So this whole meltdown in Spectre thing is just a nightmare. So this machine will probably end up going back to Windows 7, or the customer can either build a new machine or go buy a new machine. What a mess.